On today's Locked On Texan podcast, winners and losers of preseason game 2, Cody and I look at how the Houston Texans can build from their matchup against the Miami Dolphins.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to a Monday episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. And as always, I am John, some sports guy Hickman, your Texan football analyst. Can't wait to talk Texans with you guys. And of course, joined by none other than Texan credential media member and Sports Illustrated's own Cody M. Davis. If you are new to the Locked On Texan podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment wherever you listen to your pods, including YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. If you are a returning family member, checking this out every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturday. Thank you for coming back as we talk Texans for another show. Cody, 28-3, the Miami Dolphins over the Houston Texans in a game where the Houston Texans allowed over 200 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns from Skylar White in a day where they could not defensively get off the field, allowing 4 drives of 80 or more yards. Davis Mills, 10 of 22, 94 yards. No touchdowns thrown by the quarterback. C.J. Stroud, 7 of 12 for 60 yards on the day with a passer rating of 71.5. As a team, the Houston Texans rushed for 32 yards. Dameon Pierce, 6 carries, 15 yards, 2.5 yards per carry, with a lone rush of 7 yards on the day. Mike Boone led the receiving yards, with 4 catches, 35 yards. Johnny Johnson, 2 catches, 26 yards. Nico Collins purposely involved in the offense early in the game, 2 catches, 21 yards, but nothing spectacular on the day. And again, no touchdowns for the Houston Texans. Cody, when we look at a game where the Houston Texans allowed 2 fourth-down conversions, they allowed the Miami Dolphins to convert on third down 9 of 15 tries. They allowed the Miami Dolphins to get nearly 400 total rushing yards. 400 total yards on the day, 5.8 yards per play. We look at the Houston Texans. The winners, the losers. Let's look at the losers from preseason game 2, against the Miami Dolphins.
The biggest losers for me is the defense. And if I could break it down just a little bit more, it's their run defense. I know one of the things that I have been talking about ever since the start of OTAs and training camp was how good the Texans looked in their run defense. Even when they put on pass, even in the 2 joint practices that they had against the Miami Dolphins earlier in the week, they still look pretty good at stopping the run. The defense started out pretty good, pretty aggressive with the interception by linebacker Denzel Perryman. However, once Ahmed broke free down the left sideline to rush for about 60 to 61 yards, it seems like the Houston Texans run defense just fell apart. They did not set the edge, and they had a lot of missed tackles. And John, one of the things that kind of concerned me on Saturday, however, I am kind of happy that it took place in a preseason game, was the fact that a lot of the mishaps that we have been talking about in the Texans run defense showed itself. The best part about it is it's a preseason game. And like Coach D'Amico Ryans, Denzel Perryman, and C.J. Stroud said, the best thing about making mistakes now is the fact that you have an opportunity to correct them. As a matter of fact, following Saturday's loss, I had an opportunity to ask Denzel Perryman about what he saw differently in this run defense, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, we did get to the ball. We just got to, wrap up. We got to set the edge, and block protection was another thing. Like you said, just back down the fundamentals. Again, not taking away nothing from the Dolphins' offense. They capitalized from, our mistakes today.
Another thing that was a loser to me was the Houston Texans run game in general.
Yeah.
John, I understand it's preseason. However, once again, knowing that they did not find anything on the ground lets me know something that you and I have been talking about. At the end of the day, it don't matter about the excitement surrounding C.J. Stroud and this wide receiving core at times, but this offense is still going to rely heavily upon the run game, and it shows if they cannot get anything going in the run, it's going to be a long, inefficient day for the Houston Texans offense.
Yeah, I think we are on the same page right now. The defense, that swarm defense that's been getting hyped up throughout the offseason, mini camps, rookie camps, training camp, and the first game going back to the Patriots game, that swarm defense, you know what was the difference between last week and before compared to yesterday on Saturday for you guys? They went up against an explosive offense. They went against an offense that utilizes speed very well. And that was an issue for the Houston Texans. Cody already talked about the defense. They had communication errors on the day, already mentioned the poor tackling. But 3 drives, ladies and gentlemen, of 10 or more plays. On those drives, the Texans allow 8 third or fourth down conversions. They also allow 4 drives of 80 or more yards, 2 of 2 on fourth down, right? And so the front 4, which I can't wait to talk about, they were not the issue for me. The linebacker group, outside of Denzel Perryman opening it up with an interception against Tua Tagovailoa, read that play perfectly. But the linebacker group did not look in sync. The rookie HT had a bad outing on Saturday. Jake Hansen is a player that I'm looking at. I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't know if you make the team after some of the things that's been going on with practice and what we've seen against other teams. So I'm concerned about that linebacker group after you look at the starters. Corey Littleton was playing deep in that fourth quarter. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. But overall, I'm looking at that defense and I'm thinking to myself, it was a rough day for those guys, right? If we look at the losers of the day, and I want to see who was calling plays on the day because I didn't see too many linebacker blitzes like I saw in game 1 against Mac Jones. Well, the Mac Jones list, New England Patriots and that offense. But I want to know who called plays on Saturday because that defense, after their first drive, the back 7 came out flat, I feel like. In the run game, averaged under 3 yards per carry. This is a team that's been predicated around, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. We want to establish the run. That just didn't happen on Saturday, and it was rough to keep drives alive. It was rough to put your quarterback consistently in situations where it was easier for them to execute what you want to do on offense. So we're on the same page about that. If I could pick another quote-unquote loser of the day, I probably would point to No,
I know
I
I
think that
got
was
one.
it.
No, I got. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do have an extra one. The wide receiving core in general.
The drops.
Saturday, we was all surprised and kind of shocked that we did not see Tank Dell participate in the game. And come to find out, as a matter of fact, Big Sarge from the Texans Wire, he was the first one to let me know that Tank was dealing with some leg tightness. He actually had let me know that, I believe, after the first day of joint practices with the Miami Dolphins, but of course didn't really think too much of it. Got to the stadium early, saw Tank Dell actually work out and go through his pre-game rituals. However, as everybody know, by the time the Houston Texans took the field, Dell wasn't dressed out. And following the game, Coach D'Amico Ryans did confirm that Tank was dealing with some leg tightness, and that's part of the reason why they held him out. As a matter of fact, Sarge did report that if this was a regular season game, Tank actually would have played. However, preseason game, just make sure your guys stay healthy. But that is a big that whole wide receiving core, that performance, it was a big loss because that was a situation for another wide receiver to step up and actually fill in a production that he gave this offense last week in the win against the New England Patriots. And John, that was very telling to me because one of the things that I've been harping on with this wide receiving core, as everybody knows, they don't have a quote unquote number one wide receiver. But like I keep saying, it doesn't matter the matchup, the game, or whatever the case might be. They need a wide receiver to step up, and none of these receivers had an opportunity to step up. As a matter of fact, running back Mike Boone led the Texans in receptions with 35 yards on 4 catches. When you have a guy like Nico Collins out there, and I understand Collins and Robert Woods and Noah Brown were limited, but when you have guys like that taking the field at any point, you need to make sure that they at least give you some type of production within that passing game. Same thing can be said for rookie Xavier Hutchinson, another guy that we have been raving about throughout training camp. I just feel like this was a missed opportunity for another wide receiver, especially those younger guys, to go out there and make a name for themselves, especially with only one more preseason game left before the start of the regular season.
Sometimes in life, we are faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with challenges, decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you connect to what you really want in life and how to be better to navigate through life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make better decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. Listen, right now, if you're thinking about starting therapy, make sure you give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. I've benefited from therapy. I feel therapy is a tool that allows people to speak within their inner self, and BetterHelp is an app, is a way that can allow you to get there. All online, not an app, but it's all online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked-on today to get started with 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this latest installment of Locked On Texans. We talked about the losers from Saturday's game. Now it's time to talk about the winners. And I think everybody is just happy that pick number 2 and pick number 3 came out and had, of course, their best game in their short NFL career. And of course, you already know where I'm about to start for my biggest winner, C.J. Stroud. As a matter of fact, just take a listen to what Coach D'Amico Ryans had to say about his performance following the game.
With the operation of the offense, I thought CJ was more efficient. He felt more comfortable, and I think just everyone around him played better, which allowed him to play better. So I'm proud of the progression that CJ took this week. I mean, that's what we want to see, right? You want to see improvement week to week, and that's what we saw this week. So I'm proud of what CJ did. What I saw from CJ's throws was the ball was coming out on time. It was very accurate, or where the ball placement was very good. So it's encouraging, right, to see him from week 1 to this week, right, to see the improvement just overall, seeing him just more comfortable and I saw him having fun, right, playing the game, seeing him also be able to scramble out of the pocket and make a play. It's fun when you can see guys actually enjoying football, having fun doing it, and he continues to grow. We're going to be just fine.
I love the fact how Coach D'Amico Ryans made sure he went out his way and talked about the encouragement and development that he's seen out of CJ over the past week, especially in Saturday's game. And John, you already mentioned it, but I'm gonna go ahead and repeat it. CJ Stroud played the entire first half like we wanted to see. Went 7 for 12 for 60 yards. I know the first drive didn't go as planned. CJ talked about that if there was any drive that he wished he could get back, it was that first drive after Denzel Perriman's interception that placed the Texans on the 6-yard line. They only moved the ball up and got all the way to the 1-yard line, but was unable to score.
I like that they went for it on 4th down, by the way.
I like that. Let's me know. You know what? I know we're talking about CJ, and you're probably going to get into Bobby Sloyd, but if I could just jump in really quick, I love the aggressiveness that I've seen out of Bobby Sloyd these first 2 games. Hopefully, it stays that way, because after the whole vanilla-style offense we've been watching for, 5 years at least, I don't think we got to worry about that with Bobby Sloyd. However, going back to CJ, man, that second drive of the first quarter, is a small sample size of how good Stroud can actually be in this league. 11 plays helped them to record 61 yards, connected with both Nico Collins and Noah Brown for 14 plus yards. Just the efficiency that he showed on that drive, just the way he was able to help the Houston Texans move the ball, which, by the way, that was another drive where the Texans was unable to move the ball with their rushing attack. That just lets me know that C.J. Stroud definitely is going to have a really good future here with the Houston Texans. By the way, everybody was excited and happy about the improvements that we saw out of CJ Saturday afternoon. However, my favorite part about CJ was the fact that he let everybody know that he wasn't going to get complacent with the improvements that he made. This is what he told me following the game.
I think the main thing for me is just being consistent. Just consistent in everything, my approach, the way it spins on my hand, the way I call plays, and I definitely think that I have a lot of things I want to hit, but that's probably the main focus, is being consistent, because I definitely know that I can be a really good player in this league, and I think I've showed flashes of that, but it doesn't matter until you do things consistently. Everybody can do it one time. It's about the ones that separate are the ones who do it every day and every week and every game, every play, and even taking those mistakes and still trying to be better. So for me, it's just being consistent.
I do agree with CJ that the number one thing that he should focus on is consistency, because as we saw as the game went on, we did not see that same tenacity that we saw in that second drive. However, love what I saw out of CJ. Still a very small sample size, but I think this is moving forward in the right direction for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, man. C.J. Stroud is definitely one of my winners on the day. Cody, you talk about that pass to Noah Brown. You know what was so great about that play? The very first read was Dalton Schultz. He saw it quickly. It was taken away. Then he took the shot downfield to Noah Brown. Going into this game, what do we want to see from C.J.? How was he going to adjust to Fangio's defense, right? To the game getting faster. And I still want to see him take those shots down the field. So that's one of the things that I love from CJ on Saturday. I also love CJ continuously breaking that notion he's a statue in the pocket, right? And Noah Brown has to come down with that pass, especially when you put your hand up and call for it. There was a couple of drops by the receivers yesterday that, as we talked in the first segment, you just don't want to see. But CJ had a very good outing on that drive before the end of their first quarter. Hit 4 different receivers, 5 of 5, 52 yards, I believe. And so you're seeing CJ in real time just get better. And what we didn't see last week, we got an opportunity to see this week. CJ not making the same mistake twice, right?
Did not say that.
I love that.
Did not say that.
You did say that. In their first drive, I think it's just a little bit antsy overall in that first drive. Dameon Pierce, you want to see him get better in that pass protection. Big part as to why that play to Andrew Beck didn't work out. Dameon Pierce didn't step up good enough to create a solid block that allows CJ to get that pass off cleanly. But CJ played well, man. You want to see some of those balls come out of his hand, maybe more crispier. But overall, I had no complaints about CJ, and I think that he did a very good job bouncing back from the first game against the New England Patriots. Another winner on the day. The D-line, man. The D-line, the front four. We talk about the defense having a bad day. That D-line registered 2 sacks, I believe.
They could have had more.
Was it 3 or 2? Let's take a look here. But on the day, they had 6 tackles for loss. So those are some of the things that you want to see out of your defense. They did a very good job of creating pressure up the middle between Malik Collins, between Sheldon Rankins, who got some action on Saturday. That was his first game.
There my boy Will Lopez in there as well.
Boy, Lopez was in the mix. John Gurnard was in the mix. Jacob Martin was in the mix. At times, the new signing, Khalil Davis, was in the mix. And Khalil Davis played so well on Saturday. He is making this team job, when it comes down to their cut day, a little bit harder. There was one drive, I believe it was that third drive for the Houston Texans defense, where you had an opportunity to see Will Anderson, to see John Gurnard, to see a mixture between Jacob Martin out on the field as well, to see Roy Lopez and Kurt Hennis rotate in and out on that very same drive that was started off with Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins, right? And so what I'm loving right now, guys, which I was very unsure of coming into the season, at least through the first 2 weeks and training camp, the depth of this defensive line. I like it. I like the addition of Khalil Davis, who came in out of nowhere, was just playing, I believe, either in the SFL or the XFL, USFL, or he was playing in another league. So he was coming in for Houston on the day the Houston Texans did register 2 sacks. But again, 2 sacks, one of them for Will Anderson, who had a dog of a day. Had a dog of a day. Like we talk about, it was a mistake. He showed you what he's good at. Had my not criticism, but things that I wanted to see out of Will Anderson this week, and I got killed for it. But he went out on Saturday and did exactly what he's good at. Bull rush, quickly off the ball, overpowering the opposing offensive player and making a play with that motor. So you love that. But guys, overall, we look at the players. We got to show some love, a winner to the coaching staff, Bobby Slowick. After that first drive, ladies and gentlemen, you just see a coach get comfortable. The one thing that I wanted to see and I want to continue to see is getting who involved purposely? Nico Collins. And so you see the motion to the backfield, swing pass out. You want to see that. You see the play action, right? Helping this offense get some of the smaller things to pick up some of those smaller yards, maybe bigger yards. But you see him getting you see him getting comfortable as an offensive coordinator. Those were my wins on the day. I thought the D-line played well, despite the amount of yards they gave up on the back end, rushing yards. I thought that Bobby Slowick had a good offensive play calling game out there with C.J. Stroud, and I thought that Will Anderson was just phenomenal for the Houston Texans. Football is about to kick off. It's back. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season because right now, when you bet on the Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get started earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Welcome back in, Locked On Texan listeners and viewer Texan fans out there. Regardless of where you are in the world, I think a winner that we didn't mention, that we need to mention, was the combination. Shout out to Drake. What's the combination of Juice Scruggs and Kenyon Green? Cody, they looked good on Saturday. They handled the pressure up the middle well. I thought Kenyon Green was making some good contact, engaging early. And when he did that consistently throughout that game, you saw him be able to use that strength and movement out the way. Juice Scruggs had a pancake on the day. Nastiness coming from those two. What I like the most, how well they combo block and how well they were able to going to that next level. You saw Kenyon Green move a man out the way when he got to the next level. Again, that pancake block from Juice Scruggs. You are seeing them move mountains in a sense because some of these defensive linemen are mountains. But I like the progression between those two because I was wrong so far. When Scott Quisenberry went down, I said, man, I don't know if Juice is ready right now. And at times, like he had the high snap. That was something. But at times, he struggled. But between that first preseason game last week and the game against the Miami Dolphins, Juice Scruggs has played well in my eyes. He's played like a very good rookie, and that's good to hear. That's encouraging. Kenyon Green, a player that the entire time, I believe he needed that condition to get his body ready and equipped to the NFL level. But I also believe that he just needed that time because time was robbed from him. Green looked good against the Miami Dolphins. And so Titus Howard will be back probably for week 1. He took that cast off his hand. Laramie Tunsil did Laramie Tunsil things. I thought Shaq Mason could have been better on Saturday. But what I saw from the combination of the two young bucks, I liked it. I liked it, guys, and I want them to continue to build off that because I think they did a very good job, especially in pass protection. By the way, George Fant probably will make this team to be the swing tackle. George Fant didn't have a great day, but a lot of the things I am seeing George Fant criticized for was actually him doing what he was supposed to do. I saw him criticized for the play where C.J. Stroud had to break out, and the play that Noah Brown dropped the ball. There was a blitz on that play, and Noah Brown picked up the inside man. Something similar like that happened earlier in the game. I believe that was the play where CJ double clutched and ended up passing it to Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz came down with that. There was also a blitz on that play. So I thought that the play from George Fant compared to what it was last week and throughout practice was a lot better on Saturday against the Dolphins.
This second segment, I gave a lot of praise to CJ about the development, but most of that does have to go to that offensive line, especially Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs. And I was happy just to see the real-time development in both of those guys. I know I've been hampering hard on both of those guys throughout the last couple of weeks, especially Green. However, I do understand that it's going to take these guys a lot of time to get to the level where we want to see both of those guys be, because like I always mention, even when I go through my criticism on, what they did in camp, what they did in joint practices, what they did in the game, I always said that you can see the potential, you can see the talent is there, especially in Green. I know there's a lot of people that want to give up on Green, but I know that young man has lost a lot in not being able to participate in training camp last year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he only played like a week, then he had that concussion, then he was out for the rest of training camp, and the next time we saw him on the field was week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, and it was like, okay, that was pretty fast, and he was starting. But I love the fact that even with Green, with Scruggs, with Anderson, with Stroud, I think the number one thing that everybody should take away from this game is it's going to take time for development, but it's definitely going to pay off, possibly sooner rather than later. And I also want to mention this as well. And the statement that I just made isn't just for the players, because Coach D'Amico Ryans talked about the improvements that he needs to make after his team went out there and laid egg in front of the fans.
Yeah, it all starts with me. When you put a performance out there like that, it starts with me, and it wasn't good enough. So that's me internally. I wasn't good enough today for our team. And so with that, go back to the drawing board and look for myself to improve and get better, to make sure I lead this team, that we put out a much better outing, especially in front of our home crowd. All right, it's not representative of what I want for the Texans, and we'll get it corrected.
Overall, even the Houston Texans did lose 28-3. I consider this a pretty big and important day for the Texans because, look, it gives them a lot of film that they can study and use going into this upcoming week with joint practices against the New Orleans Saints, with one last preseason game to clean up as much as possible. Because look, I don't, John, I'm not with you saying that this team could win the division, but I do believe that this team is going to be competitive, and they're going to, and they have the potential to be one of those sneaky, dangerous teams that it's like, okay, the Houston Texans are no longer a team that you see on your schedule and be like, okay, we definitely going to win that game with ease. No, I think they have the potential to steal a couple wins for this upcoming season.
One of the things that I did not like, and I think this is an opportunity for us to take a more look at it throughout the week, didn't like not seeing John Mitchell get some first-team snaps. I wish we could have seen it, especially without Tank Dell. So I didn't like that. And I also think that the D-line needs more. They needed more praise from yesterday. Guys were able to step in and not be liabilities. Adedeo, the international player from, I think, Britain, he was the British player that brought over to the NFL due to their NFL pipeline program. I can't remember the name, but he was brought in last year. He is a freak athlete. This guy's a mountain of a man. I think he's like 6'6" or something like that, number 75. 2 weeks back-to-back with sacks or tackle for losses. So, like, he's not a starter for sure, But there may be opportunities with the amount of bad offensive lines in the NFL. But there may be opportunities for Houston to be able to utilize them special teams and maybe as a rotational piece. I talked about Khalil Davis. Kurt Hennis made some plays yesterday. Roy Lopez made some plays yesterday. So, like, guys were able to come in and not be a liability. And that works out for the team and the player. If we are not going to move forward with you, you got some good tape to show some of these other teams in the NFL. But we also have tape and some film to say, you know what, man, you are doing some things that we really like. And what you're doing may not be affecting your numbers, but it's allowing somebody else to flow in and out through gaps for your linebackers. It's allowing somebody else to take advantage of the pressure you're creating up the middle or from the edge. And when that quarterback steps up in the pocket, the next player is able to make that play. So they're doing some things defensively through the first couple of weeks of preseason that I like, and they're not liabilities compared to in the past. Thank you guys for checking out today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Losers, winners, better offensive line play is just kicking off this week of this week's slate podcast for us. So make sure that you check us out on YouTube at Locked On Texans. Also, like, comment, subscribe. Find us wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. That is John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter and Thread at Cody Davis _24. Once again, that's Cody COTY DAVIS _24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.